One Scout Team Sports. I am your host, of Valiant. Sorry about the squeaky desk, but hey, struggle is still streaming. I'm finding out day by day. Also got the blanket on because electric bill is high and I can't use the heat. So, oh, sorry about that. If that was loud in your ears there. But hey, we're still covering. We're still making it. Appreciate all those who are still continuing to support. Um, I'm not the greatest sports broadcaster in the world. I'm not there yet, but I appreciate some people supporting me here at the ground level, at the bottom. So, because not many people do that. They don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. They want to wait till you're at the top and then say that they were there all along, or they would just wait till they were at the top, till you're at the top, and then act like, hey, you're so great. And it's like, anyway, moving on. We've got Super Bowl. Super Bowl coming up tomorrow. We'll touch on that first, and then we'll get to some NBA stuff. So it's come down to this. Once again, what I was trying to avoid, I picked Ravens and Lions. It looks like at least one of those was going to make it in the Lions. But that didn't happen. And usually when the media has the darling dream matchup that they want, usually half of the media darling matchup makes it to the Super Bowl. So I think what the media darling matchup was a rematch, Ravens and 49ers, from the game from the regular season. They wanted to see, can the Niners actually come back and do better against the dominant Ravens when Brock Purdy threw those 4 picks. And lo and behold, usually, like I said, only half of that matchup happens. And it was the Ravens that went down and the Niners made it. And so you got Chiefs and Niners again from a couple of years ago, which is what I didn't want. And most importantly, I didn't want the Chiefs to come back. But something I've been talking about for a long time is the Chiefs' defense and how suspect they were. To me, this is the game where they finally, in my opinion, really showed up, and that was against the Ravens. When they beat the Ravens down and pinned them down, and Lamar and company couldn't do anything. Because even though, Lamar, they find ways to win, they find ways to excel on offense. And don't get me wrong, they want to say that, they were bullies on the defense. Look, Zay Flowers, their rookie, who is their number 1 wide receiver as a rookie, he still got over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. Everybody's talking about Travis Kelce, and I get it because the Chiefs won and how they, Pat Mahomes shredded the defense and all this stuff. Well, look, Zay Flowers got over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown just like Travis Kelce did. So I didn't see any difference in that, other than the fact, and then, winning 17-10, it's not a blowout. It's not that big of a scoring differential. That's a touchdown lead. That's a touchdown win. That's nothing. It's nothing, nowhere close to a blowout. It was a close game. So even by the score. So and that was all about the Chiefs defense. So I said years ago, they've been, and even last year, they've been getting by with just offense and the rules benefit the offense. But I always said that if Pat Mahomes ever gets a good defense and or a running game, it's going to be hard to stop them regardless, because you put a running game and or a defense on top of what Pat Mahomes can do. How do you beat that? It's hard to beat that, because even if Pat Mahomes isn't having a great game, then the defense shows up. And in my opinion, Pat Mahomes didn't have a great game. What we're used to seeing from Pat Mahomes and having a great game, for the average quarterback, maybe that'd have been good. For Brock Purdy, maybe that'd have been a good game. But to me, for Pat Mahomes, that wasn't a great game. His defense won that game for him. They got 2 touchdowns and a field goal. I always said, in order to be a great offense, you need to be scoring at least 3 touchdowns. They scored 2 touchdowns and a field goal. That's not, you need to average 21 points. You need to average 3 touchdowns. They didn't get above that average. They didn't even meet the average. So now that Pat Mahomes doesn't have to work as hard, not to say that he's not going to bring it every game. Of course he is. But in case, the opposing defense has kind of got him pinned down a little bit. And he's only been able to score 2 field goals and a touchdown, only 13 points. Well, now the Chiefs defense has stepped up to the point where if they got 13 points, then they're good. They got 17 points, then they're good. They got 21 points, they're good. It's really hard to beat that. And if you get down like the Niners did to the Lions, 2 touchdowns against the Chiefs, you're not coming back. Even if you get to within a field goal, you're not winning that game. Because it's not only what you need to do against the defense, it's what Pat Mahomes is going to do to extend the lead and drain the clock. Like it's not just that's the way that an offense plays defense itself, is by keeping the other offense off the field. So I unfortunately, I got the Chiefs in this game. I'm hoping the Niners win. I'm hoping they pull one out. It's going to take a Herculean effort. Not only is Brock Purdy have to be on point, but everybody's got to be ready to go. Everybody, because it's probably going to be one guy of all the athletes, of all the stars on the Niners, that will squeak through and start to break the game wide open for them. It could be Debo, it could be McCaffrey, it could be George Kittle, it could be the defense scoring, defensive touchdowns, defensive turnovers. Whoever's going to be the key that's going to break the game open for the Niners if they were to win. But I mean, really, all the Chiefs need is for Pat Mahomes to be on point and running game and or defense. Pacheco, yes, he's running the football, but he's not, especially against this Niners defense, he's not one that to me is going to break the game open. He couldn't break the game open against the Ravens. I don't care what you say. Like, they would have done more if he was breaking the game open against the Ravens. They'd have more than 17 points. And then I don't see him doing much against the Niners defense either. So I think it's going to be, it could be in the 27 to 24 range, I'm thinking, but I'm thinking it's going to be the Chiefs, because I don't see how Brock Purdy and that offense can get enough done against the Chiefs defense if they play like they did against the Ravens. They shut down the league MVP, man. And Lamar is well deserving of the MVP. But as we all know, playoffs and regular season are 2 different things. Yes, the Ravens finally got a 1 seed again, and we're finally hosting and finally won a playoff game and finally got to the AFC Championship game. But I don't know. It's just the sample size of them in the playoffs. It just didn't speak to. I mean, to me, the Ravens defense played good enough to win. They played good enough to win, but of course, it was on the offense, and Lamar and company could not get going. And I was really hoping this would be the year. But yeah, we've got the Chiefs, and like I said, if that defense plays as solid as they did against Lamar in the Super Bowl, I don't see Brock Purdy being effective. I don't see him being effective. They've got to have something for that Chiefs defense. I know the Niners are going to come to play on offense and defense. They've got all the weapons in the world. But if Brock Purdy cannot get going against that Chiefs defense, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Pat Mahomes is going to have a time against that Niners D. It's going to be a back and forth tussle. But the real matchup is Chiefs defense versus Niners offense. Any other day, any other time, I would take the Niners offense if the Chiefs defense hadn't gradually improved and gotten better. I don't care about stats. I don't care about, I care about what I see on the field. And to me, the Chiefs defense has not looked good until they got to the AFC Championship game. They have not looked like a Super Bowl defense until that game. They didn't look like it against the Bills. They didn't look like it against the Dolphins. They didn't at all. No. They didn't look like it during the regular season. They look like it on the field like a Super Bowl contending defense against the Ravens. That was the first time I saw it, to me. So I'm picking the Chiefs, unfortunately. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I'm picking the Chiefs, hoping the Niners win. Because it would be nice to see somebody else win a Super Bowl, and especially a team other than the Chiefs. So, yeah. So, hoping that happens. But, yeah, that's my breakdown. We've got Chiefs over 49ers, and we're hoping that other teams rise up next year so they can actually play better against the Chiefs, especially every team in the AFC who seems to have their head in the ground. But anyway, moving on to the NBA, we've got, first of all, wanted to shout out what I've seen here. This is my first time seeing it, and all the times of checking out NBA.com, examining 20 standout players this season before annual NBA HBCU Classic. I know when I was going to Jackson State for graduate school, there was no NBA HBCU Classic. At least I didn't see it, and I was there. But now I'm glad that they're highlighting the HBCUs as far as those players and possibly getting the chance to shine to make it to the NBA and not just your Power 5 schools, Power 5 conferences like it is in college football, or all of the colleges that are normally in the NCAA tournament. Because I rarely see a HBCU team make it to the NCAA tournament. If they do, they end up being like, the 16th seed and facing the 1 seed, or 15th seed facing the 2 seed. And that occasionally happens. But other than that, I don't see it that often. But to see them highlighting these players where there's just a couple standout players, they could make it to the NBA. So I am very pleased with that. I think that is fair. I think that they definitely should be doing that. And now what I teased in the midweek scramble, the LA Clippers, and why I have hardly ever talked about them or haven't talked about them much. For me, if you think about the big four now, if you want to call them that, Kawhi is the only one, if he's healthy, that I trust in the playoffs. I ain't worried about the regular season. Yeah, they can always become one of the top 8 teams to make into the playoffs. And then, of course, you got the play-in tournament, which now, because of the Lakers, have proven that somebody can get all the way from the play-in tournament, and the Heat have proven that somebody can, from the play-in tournament, can get all the way to the NBA Finals. And now they're never going to let that thing go. Because now they've justified making more money. The Kawhi, when he's healthy, is the only one that I trust in the playoffs. We all know who James Harden is in the playoffs. I'm hoping they turn it around. I mean, they're about to go into their new stadium next year in Inglewood. New arena in Inglewood. So they're definitely not leaving LA. I was hoping at one point maybe they'd go back to San Diego. But that's obviously clearly not happening. And they've got their own little home now. They'll be leaving Crypto.com Arena where the Lakers play, and that'll be just the Lakers. I wish the Lakers would go back to Grand Western Forum, now called the Kia Center, too. That would be great. But I just, Kawhi's the only one I trust. So James Harden doesn't show up in the playoffs. It's not to say that he couldn't turn it around. He could. And then you got Westbrook. Again, in the playoffs, he always plays his heart out. But when it's time to show up and shine, he's not there yet. And I think maybe on this type of team where there's other stars that he has to play with, not just himself or not just one other star, but 3 other stars, I think maybe, if they really work as a team, they could pull this thing off. And then you got Paul George, who, again, if he's healthy, he's good. But in the playoffs, I still haven't seen what I need to see. When he was playing against LeBron back in those days, and, as a pacer, he was doing the best that he could. But, LeBron and LeBron's team were always just as a whole, as a team, better. So he can never get over that hump. But now that they're together, I got to see it. I got to see it in the playoffs. They've gone as far as reaching the Western Conference Final. So you now need to at least make the NBA final, even if they don't win the NBA final. I've got to see it, or at least I'll cut them a break. I'll cut them a break because the Denver Nuggets are so lethal, and are last year's champions and are still lethal. And now you've got the Thunder and you got the T-Wolves especially. I will give them. I really wish I could put the Suns in the same bracket, but it's just, can their big three stay healthy? They need to stay healthy in the playoffs, and even then, it's going to be a war come playoff time with these teams, because all these teams, top first six, I will say, have multiple stars. The T Wolves, the Thunder, the Thunder have really no stars, but they have really good players who play as a team, and that works for them. No name stars. They all play. They're all equal. Nobody's above anybody else. That works for some teams. And then even if a guy is emerging as a star, I don't see anybody over on that Thunder team overshadowing the other teammates to where it's like, we've got to defer to him, like you have to defer to LeBron, or you have to defer to KD, or you have to defer to Kawhi, or you have to defer to Anthony Edwards, or you have to defer to, So, yeah, for the Clippers, I got to see it. You at least need to make the conference finals again. And I'm really sometimes I feel like I'm being too hard. Sometimes feel like I'm being too lenient. The West is tougher now. Even in years, even more than it was last year. Because last year, in the last 2 years, rather, I thought it was really weak. But you got to be able to at least get to the conference final. I don't know that they can do that. I hope that they can. Like I said, a good regular season record. You've got regular season, superstars that just shrink in the playoffs. And to me, the Clippers are one of them. So minus Kawhi, you got to show me in the playoffs that you can get the job done. So if the Clippers can do that, then yeah, I'd talk about them more as a serious, legitimate contender. But what I'm tired of doing is talking about the Clippers in the regular season, thinking that, they're going to do good when come playoff time. They win one series and then they fall short in the second round, or they just don't look good at all in the conference final. And they just like, okay, when are we going to get over the hump? You came here. Kawhi came there. He wanted this team to be put together. He asked Jerry West to get me another star when he could have been with the Lakers. And yes, I would think that if it was Kawhi, LeBron, and AD on the same team, they'd have at least 2 to 3 rings right now, since they would have been together, as opposed to the Lakers having the bubble title and the Clippers have nothing. So I can't say, and I'm not saying that Kawhi didn't make the right decision for himself. He could have still very well made the right decision for himself. But, because he was interviewing and he was, talking to LeBron, talking to stars and seeing, what the chemistry, what the atmosphere was like as far as the Lakers organization. Did he want to be a part of that? Was it going to be something that was going to work for him, or was it just, he wasn't feeling it internally? So I can't say it was wasn't the right decision to join the Clippers for him. But what I am saying is I still think that they would have several rings by now, as opposed to, if you think about at the time that Kawhi was making his decision of which team to go to, if he would have went to the Lakers, I think they'd have a couple tied, at least 2, if not 3 right now, if it was him, AD, and LeBron. But now, again, he's the Clippers. Him and Paul George alone and the supporting cast couldn't do it. Now you get Westbrook, then you get James Harden. They're all on the same team. Can they get the job done? I need to at least see a conference final, Western Conference final, and if you lose, you better take them to the limit. If you lose, you better take them to the limit. I'm talking game 7, maybe even overtime if need be. And you take whoever you're facing in the conference finals to the limit. And then if you lose, then I'll cut you some slack. LA Clippers. But that's it. You cannot fall short of the conference final. And you can then not get to the conference final and then play like crap. You better not get swept like the Lakers did last year. You cannot play that bad. So again, that's why I don't talk about the Clippers, because I'm tired of getting my hopes up. Because Kawhi is my favorite player. I'm not a Clippers fan. I don't have a favorite NBA team, but Kawhi is my favorite player. San Diego State alumnus, like myself. And yeah, he's my favorite player. Ever since he's been in the league, he's been my favorite player. But I'm not going to get my hopes up until they actually show me what they should be doing in the playoffs. And to me, like I said, the West has gotten tougher than it has been in the last couple of years. And they had so many, especially when the last time they went to the conference final, that was their best opportunity to win a title. That really was. But they couldn't do it. So now that the West is tougher, but, they've loaded up. They're ready for war. Let's see it. But again, we won't see it till playoff time. I think seeding and matchups could play a part in that, although not too much, because like I said, from 1 through 6, from what I'm looking at right now, if the playoffs started today, T-Wolves, Thunder, Clippers, Nuggets, Suns, Kings, in the 6th spot, Pelicans, Mavericks. Yeah, you're looking at definitely probably a first round win, but then second round, I don't know. Depending on who they face, I don't know. I don't know, depending on who they face. But yeah, like I said, it has to be conference finals, game 7, take them to the limit, and barely lose. Nothing less from the Clippers will do for me in terms of expectations, in terms of me talking about them on a regular basis, and the reason why I don't. All of a sudden, the Clippers are hot. They're the hottest team in the league. The Rockets were the hottest team in the league at one point when James Harden was the star of the show. What have they done in the playoffs? Paul George, at one point, the Pacers were a hot team when he was with the Pacers. What have they done? The only one that's won everywhere he's been, a title everywhere he's been, has been Kawhi. And he's injured so much, it's like, things could be coming to an end for him in his career. I hope not. I hope not. But yeah. So that's why I don't talk about the Clippers that much. Because it's like, I want Kawhi to get another ring, and it's just, and other teams are making moves, so it never gets any easier as far as competition. But hey, thus is the league. So post your comments, anything that you want me to talk about on future live streams and shows for Scout Team Sports. That's going to do it for this live stream. Talked about football. Football's over. Now we are full-fledged NBA. Of course, if anything is breaking news or anything like that, and I catch it, we'll definitely cover it in the world of NBA, NFL, and college football. But that's going to do it. And unfortunately, we've got to have a break from football. But actually, I take that back. Not unfortunately, fortunately, because when you miss something and you're craving it so much for it to come back, that's what makes it so great when it finally does come back. We have football 365, we get tired of it and we wouldn't love it as much. Is the XFL still going? It's like, the drip is with these other leagues. It's like, you're like, okay, they're starting right after the Super Bowl, and it's like, all right, more football, and then it's like you get a little bit of it, and then you're like, okay, I'm good. Yeah, I'm not gonna watch the whole season, and yeah, that's it. It's like, this is literally how it is for me. Post your comments if you feel the same way or if you're different. Do you think these extra leagues, XFL, USFL, I can't keep up with them, whether or not they're still going or they've been canceled? As far as the leagues, or if they folded, I don't know. So it's almost just like wait and see until you see a publication or a signing or an advertisement or a commercial or something. You might even advertise it on during the Super Bowl. But yeah, it's always like, oh yeah, more football, and then at about 3 weeks of it, I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. We'll wait till the NFL. And it's not necessarily for that those other leagues are bad. It's just, it's not the NFL, it's not college football, and there's other things behind it. Like, like college football is your alma mater. It's, the coaches and whatnot, how that swings. It's a whole bunch that goes into that. It's the campuses that think that they're better than each other and whatnot. And so that's the lore of college football. Then NFL is like the team that you grew up loving ever since you were a kid, and your dad and your mom and your sister are fans of the same team. And then across the way, somebody who's the opposite, or maybe you have a turncoat within your own family, and then they like another team just because of some nonsense. And yeah, it's all kind of things. So it's hard to that's why it's the NFL and college football are so great, and it's hard to just input another upstart league and to really care about it unless you know somebody who's playing and they're doing it. And even then, they're on that team so that they can hopefully make it to the NFL, because every now and then they do pull somebody from those other leagues and sign them to a 1 year deal or something like that, as far as an NFL team, or sign them to a practice squad or something like that. So there is something to look forward to in that regard. But yeah, it'll be like 3 weeks of the XFL and then I'm done, unless they do something that really just makes it more exciting or something like that. And I don't know if that's possible, but hey, we'll see. But this has been it for Scout Team Sports in this particular podcast for this weekend. I appreciate all of my subscribers. Please continue to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next week. Believe until you stop breathing. This is Scout Team Sports.